Puerto Rico's under attack, from offensive jokes to reckless policies. And tonight, we're breaking down the truth they don't want you to hear. Welcome to the show. I'm John DeBona, and I'm glad you're here. This is where we cut through the noise and break down the issues affecting our country. Tonight, we're diving into the fight for Puerto Rico's dignity and future. Because from offensive jokes to reckless policies, there's a lot on the line. Joining me is a man who's never backed down from a fight, retired Army Major, former West Virginia State Senator, and founder of Turn Left PAC, Richard Ojeda. He's here to help us unpack the issues Puerto Rico is facing and what we can do to push back. So just when you think you've heard every distasteful comment out there, along comes a comment that's so callous it makes you question what some people truly think about Puerto Rico and its people. Richard, let's start with that obvious Tony Hinchcliffe's comment about Puerto Rico, calling it a floating island of garbage. That hit a nerve with a lot of folks, don't you think?
Well, it hit a nerve with me, big time. I've been down to Puerto Rico numerous times. And I'm going to tell you, I have so much respect for Puerto Rico. I grew up in southern West Virginia. To be honest with you, we pronounced it Puerto Rico, like Porta. And I try my best to make it a cognizant effort to remember to pronounce it Puerto Rico because of what Puerto Rico has done, what they have given to us. An amazing culture, amazing people. It's such a beautiful place. And for somebody to label it as an island of garbage, it bothers me because, once again, I spent 24 years in the military. One of the best soldiers that I ever served with was from Puerto Rico. Many soldiers that I served with from Puerto Rico, they were great soldiers. I don't remember, any of them being kicked out of the military because they couldn't pass urinalysis. I mean, they were great soldiers. And for anybody, and everybody needs to know that, this material had to be presented to Donald Trump's team before the people went out. And the reason why we know that is because one of the jokes that he was going to do was he was going to literally call Kamala Harris the C word. And they said, that's a bridge too far, strike that. But they thought it was okay for him to use the term that Puerto Rico is an island of garbage. And let me tell you that it bothers me. It should bother everybody, and I say right now, you know what? We have benefited greatly from Puerto Ricans. That's a fact. They fought in every war since World War I side by side with us. They are America. And, they should be the 51st state. But this is absolutely unacceptable. And to the 1.1 million Puerto Ricans that reside in Florida, to the 1 million that reside in New York, to the 100,000 that reside in North Carolina, to the 50,000 that reside in Wisconsin, vote accordingly. To the 400,000 that reside in Pennsylvania, vote accordingly. Vote for the party that doesn't think and doesn't say that the island of Puerto Rico is an island of garbage. Vote for the party that knows how important Puerto Rico is to this country. They have shed blood for this country. When I was in Iraq in 2004, 2005, that was the worst year throughout the entire war. I didn't see Donald Trump and I didn't see Tony Hinchcliffe. But what I did see was the Puerto Rican National Guard risking their lives every day for us. So to me, to sit and listen to somebody like this, to spew his garbage, is a slap in the face. To me, if you attack my friends, you attack me. And that was a direct attack on a lot of people that I served in the military with, that I consider to be my brothers and my sisters. And that's unacceptable. And I will tell you, I don't wish harm to anybody. And I will tell you, I hope that Tony Hinchcliffe guy has good security, because I'm telling you right now, he has absolutely pissed off a nation of people that absolutely will let him know if they see him face to face. That's an absolute fact. Jokes are one thing. I was just on the House Sparks show. There are levels to jokes. And, if you want to make fun of somebody's cuisine or something like that, but to call Puerto Rico a garbage nation, let me tell you something, that went way beyond what a joke should do. That's a fact. And the fact that he also talked about, carving watermelons with black people. I mean, look, man, they're not even hiding their racism. That's what we have going on right now. They're not hiding their racism. They know that their base is racist. So they want to make sure that they can get their base. So pull all the stops out, be as racist as you want. But make no mistake about it, you're not going to win with that.
And this was on the main stage, Madison Square Garden. This was not something that happened by accident, like you said. This was planned, and this guy was vetted. His questions were reviewed, and it was absolutely a disgusting display of racism.
Yep, absolutely, and unacceptable.
Indeed. Do you see this just as an isolated incident, or is this kind of rhetoric going to be more common in political circles in the media now that Donald Trump's pushing his dangerous
Well,
agendas?
let's hope that we defeat Donald Trump and we defeat him big time, because maybe that will convince these people that going the racist route is not the way to go. Racism turns people off. It should. But once again, if it's close, if this is, if these people, if the Republicans think that they can continue down that path, it's going to benefit them, then absolutely. And that's what's happening. I mean, right now I live in North Carolina. The guy that is my representative has already sent me 2 things in the mail, and both of them did nothing but talk about, we need to close the border. Look, man, once again, if a person who can barely speak English or can't speak English walks all the way from Nicaragua, Panama, El Salvador, Guatemala, Mexico, they walk all the way to North Carolina and take your job, you made shitty decisions in life, not them. If your job can be taken from you by somebody that can't even speak the language, maybe you're just a lazy turd and your boss is looking for somebody to replace you. That's the way that it is. But once again, to have a person that is a member of Congress basically using that as his number one fight, it tells me that he is absolutely relying on racism. That's what he's doing. He's relying on racism, and he's hoping that that's going to be something that will actually give him a victory. And I'm hoping that the people in North Carolina are smart enough to realize that that's garbage. If you're going to sit here and tell me that the border is the most important thing right now, when I'm living in North Carolina, I'm going to call you a friggin' moron, and you're full of it.
Oh, that's absolutely right. The folks who are complaining the most about this now are the ones who voted against the border bill. They had a solution, and the Republicans decided to kill that.
Yeah, think about that. Donald Trump tells the Republicans, who had just sat down with the Democrats and came up with a bipartisan bill. Both sides have agreed, and it absolutely addressed the major issues. Hiring another 1,400 Border Patrol agents, purchasing the equipment that would allow them to test 50% of the vehicles that cross the border for fentanyl. Right now, we're able to test 5% of the vehicles. This would absolutely give us the ability to check 50% of the vehicles, which means we would see a lot bigger busts in terms of fentanyl coming across the border. It also was going to hire legal representation to deal with all the cases of asylum, which is legal. Seeking asylum is legal. And everybody come together and said, okay, this is it. Then they took that bill, they presented it to the Border Patrol agents, and the Border Patrol agents said, yep, that's perfect. That's what we want. And then Donald Trump heard about it and said, hey, kill the bill. I want chaos at the border. Donald Trump, the man who's going around the country saying that we're already a garbage can, is the man who stopped a border bill. Every single person who has died from fentanyl that come across the border, ever since Donald Trump shot this bill down, Donald Trump should be held accountable for that loss, because that's what this is. But yeah, that's where we're at. And racism is something that the Republicans are absolutely hoping that works for them. And make no mistake about it, if it does, they're only going to get worse.
And this joke was absolutely racist. This whole presentation of Puerto Rico being a garbage country is just racist and wrong. And if you think that that joke was just a joke, no, think again. Because when it comes to dismissing Puerto Rico, some leaders take it even further, like Donald Trump. And when we come back from the break, we're going to talk a little bit more about Donald Trump's actions towards Puerto Rico.
When I ran for Congress, we flipped more Trump voters blue than any other congressional race in the country. We did this by calling out the GOP's lies and speaking truth against their $1 million attack ads. I've now partnered with Turn Left, and we're taking the fight to the extremists like Marge the Trainwreck Green, Ted Cruz, and Josh Hawley, to name a few. And I'm asking each and every one of you all to donate $25 today to the group that is absolutely helping to send these jackaloons packing. It's time to speak truth to power and turn left.
Well, we all remember Trump's infamous paper towel toss in Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria. But that was just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to his disregard for the island. Richard, the Trump's administration response to Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria was widely criticized. Can you break down what went wrong and why it matters so much that we remember what happened?
Well, you got to understand that Puerto Rico has given so much to this country. The main reason why they are still sitting as a territory and not the 51st state is because the Republicans know that there's a big possibility that it would be more left-leaning, that it would basically create two more senators that were Democrats and not Republicans. And Donald Trump knew that as well. And when Donald Trump went down to Puerto Rico following, I believe it was Hurricane Maria, and threw paper towels at people, what people don't know is he also withheld something like $30 billion because he just didn't want to release it to Puerto Rico. And understand that these people had just been hit with a massive hurricane. And I'm going to tell you, a year later, there are still people that were without power in Puerto Rico because Donald Trump withheld funding. And once again, this also, it also is part of racism. Donald Trump doesn't have no respect for the people. Donald Trump doesn't have no respect for anybody except white people. And everybody needs to know that. I sit and I watch people that are light brown to dark brown are always under attack in this country. And once again, it's the same thing with people of color. Donald Trump is a racist man. All you have to do is do a little bit of research about the exonerated five to see how racist Donald Trump really is. But what he did was he withheld funding. And Puerto Rico gives so much to this country. We're not just talking about their music, their cuisine. I mean, they step up to the plate. They have fought in every single major war that we've ever been in since World War I. They sent 40,000 troops to Iraq, 40,000 troops to Africa. I mean, they served in every war: Desert Storm, Korean War, the Vietnam War. I mean, Puerto Ricans have always been there and have stood for this country. And for Donald Trump to do what he did shows that he's racist, because Donald Trump doesn't care to withhold funding for people and go throw paper towels at him and act like that's all they deserve. And deep down, Donald Trump didn't want to give them what they needed, because once again, Donald Trump doesn't care about people of color. He never has. He never will. So, it's a slap in the face. And that's one of the things right now. You have the Latino people in this country. When they talk about we're going to round up 2 to 3 million Latino voters or Latinos, who do you think they're talking about? There's 1.1 million Latinos in Florida. There's 1 million in New York. There's 400,000 in Pennsylvania. There's 100,000 in North Carolina. Those are the people. If you do the number, if you add it all up, No, it pretty much looks like you're really hitting the numbers that Donald Trump's talking about rounding up. You know, when I think about the Trump rally where the African American who was decked out from head to toe with Trump gear was being attacked by three men. And there's a photograph where he's on the ground and the guys on top of him with their hands, they're raining down punches. But if you look behind them at the crowd, you saw people that were laughing and smiling. They thought it was funny that a black man was getting beat by three white men. And they thought that that was acceptable. They didn't step in to try to stop it. They stood there. They pulled out their cameras. They laughed. No different than Mark Robinson running for governor of North Carolina goes to a church and says, some people need killing. And you heard people laughing and you heard people clapping. And just like Tony Hinchcliffe giving that horrible joke, which he called a joke, which wasn't a joke, talking about the island nation of Puerto Rico, you heard people laughing. You heard people clapping in the crowd because that's their target audience. That's the target audience that is Trump. The people that don't like people of color. And we're talking all colors other than white. That's what's going on, folks. And it's unacceptable, and we have to put a stop to that. And if we have to put a stop to it at the ballot box, then that's exactly what we need to do.
Absolutely. It seems like Donald Trump, his response to Maria, was a clear example of everything being about vengeance with him. That he didn't want to help them because they were not basically going along with his agenda. And I think that's part of it. And you touched on that with the racism. This is a part of Donald Trump being vengeful. And
Donald Trump is a small man who believes that, unless you give him total 100%, he doesn't understand that the military, we take an oath to the Constitution, not the President of the United States. But Donald Trump also withheld funding from California. We know that Donald Trump actually was going to continue withholding funding from California during the wildfires because basically Donald Trump was like, they're Democrats. And then Republican leaders had to explain to him that California has a lot of Republicans too. And that's why Donald Trump decided to say, okay, we can release some funding. Donald Trump thinks that if you are not 100% bowing down to him, then you're his enemy. That's what Donald Trump thinks about. And once again, I mean, that's who he is. And that's why it's important. We have to defeat Donald Trump. We have to defeat Donald Trump. Donald Trump doesn't realize, he's not smart enough to realize that when you become the president of the United States, when you win that race, the very next day, when you raise your hand and take that oath, you're the president of America, not just the Republican states. And Donald Trump ain't smart enough to get that. Donald Trump withholds funding from Democratic states because, once again, he says they didn't do what I wanted. I was on Hal Sparks' show earlier today, and we were talking about something, and I think it's important to bring up here. Donald Trump keeps talking about the 10,000 National Guard troops that he offered Nancy Pelosi. The truth is that Donald Trump wanted 10,000 National Guard troops that would show up armed from Louisiana, Alabama, South Carolina, Kentucky, places like that, would bust to Washington, D.C., and the 10,000 troops that Donald Trump said he offered were actually 10,000 troops that would have been armed, that would have also come from the heavily red states, that were actually there to basically march side by side, protecting Donald Trump and his marchers down to the Capitol. That's what Donald Trump wanted. And Donald Trump wanted them to protect him as he marched down to the Capitol. And I'm going to tell you right now, I guarantee you, in Donald Trump's mind, Donald Trump was hoping that once they got to the Capitol and people started fighting, that Donald Trump would look at the National Guardsmen and basically claim, I'm your commander-in-chief, get in there. And I'm telling you, there's a lot of truth when you think about that. The reason why Nancy Pelosi said, no, thank you, is because the troops that Donald Trump was wanting to bring up there and offer were basically troops that they knew he was going to try to convince to join him in his fight.
Well, you know, if you thought that Donald Trump's actions in the past were harmful, wait until you hear what Project 2025 has planned for Puerto Rico's environment and disaster response. After the break, we're going to talk about how this isn't just about neglect, it's about dismantling protections that could make survival itself a challenge.
Today, we have an amazing show for you.
Join myself, special guests, and celebrities.
What's going on, Ice-T? Andrew Yang.
Somebody else was hopping on.
Oh, hold on.
What's going on, Battle?
As we roast GQP Jackaloons.
He may not be a real businessman, but he is one hell of a con artist.
That's what it is. That's what they got indicted for. Treason and sedition. And addresses the headlines of the day.
They must be held accountable.
Live streaming every night. I got more time in a friggin' port in a friggin' combat zone than you probably got in the military. This is Ojeda Live.
Well, imagine an island losing the very defenses that protect it from hurricanes and storms, all because of an agenda that values profit over people. That's the reality Puerto Rico could face under Project 2025. Richard, let's talk about environmental deregulation. So how would Project 2025's push to eliminate protections impact Puerto Rico's natural resources and public health?
Let me tell you something about Project 2025, and it's not just Puerto Rico. They're talking about doing away with FEMA. That's why they're vilifying FEMA. That's why they made everybody in the western part of North Carolina, the eastern part of Tennessee, think that FEMA was coming there as a villain and had people running FEMA off with guns. They also want to do away with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA. NOAA is the organization that basically warns us about storms. It gives us the direct path that the storm is taking. And if they shut that down, Puerto Rico, an island nation, would be in a world of hurt. Without a warning to let them know that a massive storm is coming, think about what could happen if you're not prepared, if you don't prepare yourself. You know, a lot of people will go, they will automatically put up boards over their windows. If they're not told that a storm is coming and it hits in the middle of the night, there goes their windows, water gets in their homes. I mean, all kinds of horrible stuff. It's the same thing, though, with Tornado Alley. You do away with NOAA, then a lot of people in middle of Kansas aren't going to get that warning that says, hey, we got a tornado coming down and it's going right through your area. The same thing with the wildfires in California. You know, it's going to hurt everybody. But once again, they want to do away with these organizations. And I honestly don't see why. Why would you want to do away with the organizations like that? Is Donald mad because when he tried to draw a line and act like, oh, look, it was going to hit over here too? Is he mad that he got called out? And because of that, he wants to do away with that capability? I mean, that's unacceptable. I mean, NOAA benefits every American. FEMA is the first ones there to help, and they actually do help. I just, you know, and when you talk about taking things like that away and taking away protections, Puerto Rico is a beautiful island. And I mean, it is wild. The plant life is amazing. The cuisine is next level. The music is wonderful. No matter when you go, it's 86 degrees every single day in Puerto Rico. And it is beautiful. If you go to the San Juan Fort, if you take a cruise ship into Puerto Rico, the sight that you see is breathtakingly beautiful. You know, this place is absolutely amazing. And if you start going down there and allowing companies to just drill at will, you're going to do some damage to these people. When you go down there and decide to run pipelines over their aquifers that give them their fresh water, the companies that do that don't care that the people in Puerto Rico will now have to drink bottled water for the rest of their lives because tap water isn't good enough. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that could happen. The people of Puerto Rico would be absolutely targeted by storms and natural disasters. And most importantly, they'd be targeted by companies that don't care about nobody, and all they care about is a dollar sign. And Donald Trump would give them people the permission to go down there and drill, baby, drill the way he says it. And at the end of the day, you got these corporations that would get rich, but the people would suffer. And Donald Trump don't care about the people of Puerto Rico. And they need to absolutely let him know that that's the biggest mistake that he ever made.
Absolutely. In terms of climate resilience, what does it mean for Puerto Rico if Project 2025 goes forward with these protections, if they strip away these protections? And one point that I did want to make before we go into that was that the surrounding area, the mangroves, protect the inner island from storms. They protect the island from devastating erosion and that would cause mudslides, things like that. So the loss of these natural buffers could lead to greater destruction to the entire island during storms, putting not only lives and property and just everything at higher risk. The erosion of the land. Puerto Rico has some mountainous areas, and those areas being hit by hurricane winds, like we saw in North Carolina, how there was such an enormous erosion.
It washed cities in the western part of North Carolina off the map. Asheville, North Carolina was washed off the map. And, those are areas that we don't normally think are going to be dealt with big storms like hurricanes. But it happens. But places like Puerto Rico, that's a reality for these people. And, you're talking about allowing people who have no problems buying huge swaths of rainforest and then chopping everything down for profit. They don't think about the wildlife. They don't think about the different types of medicines that may be found in those areas right there that can help, cure diseases and stuff like that. They don't care about that. And make no mistake about it, they won't care to go into Puerto Rico and drill everywhere. They don't care if they get rid of the huge areas of you said the mangroves that protect parts of Puerto Rico from basically being washed away from erosion, damage. But that's who we're dealing with here. And those people don't care about the environment. They don't care if the people of Puerto Rico will have to drink bottled water for the rest of their life because their tap water is poison. They don't think about that stuff. Let me tell you something. Donald Trump don't think about that stuff. Donald Trump would let anybody who gave him enough money do what he wants. He's already been caught. He was told, it's already on recording. Donald Trump saying, if you give me $1 billion, I will remove whatever regulation that you say. Folks, that's dangerous. That means Donald Trump doesn't care if that person gives him $1 billion. It doesn't matter if it's going to hurt people, if it's going to cause children to end up with cancers and things like that. Donald Trump don't care. That guy gave him $1 billion. He told that guy that he would get rid of whatever regulation that he wants. Those people don't care about the average citizen. They don't. They are the types of people that believe that he who dies with the most toys wins. And that's the daggone people that Donald Trump is promising to get rid of regulations. And for areas like Puerto Rico, they could literally be in the crosshairs for every one of these people. And once again, Puerto Rico is such a beautiful place. Such a beautiful place. It is absolutely breathtakingly beautiful. The mountains are amazing. It's gorgeous. The beaches, the fort, there's so much to Puerto Rico, and the food is next level.
Absolutely. I mean, we talked about all of those things. I have to mention The coffee. We cannot forget the Puerto Rican coffee. It is some of the best in the world, if not the best in the world.
Yes, absolutely. Spot on.
So we've covered a lot tonight, from a tasteless joke to policies that threaten an entire community's survival. Richard, thank you so much for being here and giving us your view on what's at stake.
It's what we do, man. You know, we're in the fight, and people that listen to this, you need to vote accordingly. You know, you need to vote to make sure that people like from Puerto Rico aren't, you know, aren't targeted by greedy people that absolutely don't realize how important and how much we benefit from having Puerto Rican as one of the territories, an island nation. And I'll tell you right now, I am a huge supporter of making Puerto Rico the 51st state. They deserve it, and we should make that happen.
Absolutely. We stand with Puerto Rico. Thanks for being here, Richard.
Airborne.
Tonight, we confronted the offensive rhetoric that Puerto Rico endures, examined the harm Trump's policies have already done, and broke down Project 2025's plan to dismantle protections that keep Puerto Rico safe. It's a stark reminder that these aren't isolated incidents. They're part of a larger disregard for people's lives and well-being. This is why the work of organizations like Turn Left PAC is so vital. They're standing up against this extremist agenda, fighting to protect Puerto Rico and other communities that are under threat. Head over to turnleftpac.org. Learn about how you can get involved and join the fight. Every voice matters, and together we can make a difference. Richard, thank you for sharing your insights and your relentless dedication to justice. And to everyone listening, remember, stay informed, stay vigilant, and speak out. Puerto Rico and every community facing these threats deserves our support. Stay tuned for more discussions that cut through the noise, and let's make sure no one is left behind in the face of political negligence.